Welcome to the Park Equity Summit. Thank you all for being here.
You just stop and look around the room. It is unbelievable how many people are here talking about race and equity and our park system.
So in the next phase of this presentation, we're going to talk about our values, the Land Trust values to address in park equity. Park equity value number 1, the status quo is not acceptable.
So, the lack of park space in our community is a real environmental justice issue.
No tenemos acceso a otro parque. Los más cerca están a 30 minutos caminando y las personas prefieren quedarse en casa por la inseguridad, por los robos, asaltos y balaceras en la comunidad.
Look, Quimby and the ordinance change and Measure A were significant wins for Los Angeles County and the city of LA. But I'll say it again, it's not enough.
We need to change this whole paradigm where we're having to live funding measure to funding measure. Yes. We need to increase the general fund allocations.
We need sustainable sources of funding for our operations and maintenance of our park systems.
Park equity value number 2. It is absolutely vital that we are able to talk about race and we are able to talk about history. Park systems that fail communities of color fail all of us. We're in this situation for a reason. Zoning, redlining, racism, and poor planning all got us here and at times reinforce the status quo today.
We actually have to acknowledge that what we see in the distribution of our park resources is part of an ongoing and systematic problem of racial, economic, and health inequities, and it goes far beyond access just to parks.
Park equity value number 3, the development of park equity strategies must be led by the people that are least served by the park system.
Political will is difficult to develop, easy to lose. Community organizing, building longer-term strategies and investing in people and all sectors of the community, not those that, not just the folks that are easier to reach, but the hard-to-reach populations is essential in addressing equity.
I would say this needs assessment, Asian and Pacific Islander communities were not at the table. We didn't engage people in their language. We didn't really engage people to actually come out to these different events.
It's time for agencies and organizations to really be focused on letting the community lead.
Park equity value number 4. Park equity does not stand alone as its own issue.
Vemos áreas sin parques recreativos suficientes donde la delincuencia juvenil y la recepción escolar y el consumo de drogas principalmente donde están los latinos y afroamericanos de bajos ingresos.
One of the key victories that the Quimby measure highlighted is the work to build alliances with the housing folks. This effort to bring nonprofit housers to the table, who would say, we need housing, but we also need parks. It's not either or. And that's when we get back to that whole social determinants of health conversation, that all these issues are linked.
Look back at the map that we saw a little bit earlier of the park needs assessment. And many of those same neighborhoods that were identified are also hotspots for displacement and gentrification.
We pulled together a coalition. It's LA Regional Open Space and Affordable Housing. So we're looking at what are some both policy, public finance, and then joint development opportunities so that we can get ahead of the gentrification curve.
Park equity value number 5, how we respond to need defines our morals, our priorities, and our values.
It's the right time to start, being focused and intentional about our investments in our park system.
So my goal, and so I hope our goal is that all those red areas become green areas. When we get to that point, we have addressed park equity.
Equity and ensuring equity is an iterative process, and it requires constantly challenging our thinking, our process, and that this funding presents an opportunity to really move against the status quo and what the easy default processes have been.
In July of last year, our board adopted an ordinance that is based on racial and economic equity in terms of how we will invest these dollars in our parks. The community characteristics are racially concentrated areas of poverty, neighborhood population density, youth population in the neighborhood, and neighborhood crime statistics. that we selected those as critical in terms of determining where we needed to make investments in parks. We have 34 parks that will be getting capital investments over the next 6 years. Of those 34 parks, 33 are in racially concentrated areas of poverty. So it's a demonstration about how this matrix is working.
I've been really impressed by the diverse voices and actually the strong commitment to equity as a frame, and that it is indeed possible and is something that we can do if we're really committed to it.
I think one of the key takeaways that I bring back to work is that in order to kind of implement more sound policies, we need to do a better job at collaborating with partners on all different levels.
For me, I'm walking away with a lot of hope and just a reminder of how important leadership is.